Hi there, I'm Jen, this is Remembered Reads, and this is going to be a library haul. Usually when I do a library haul, there's some kind of theme going on, but there is no theme here. This is just going to be random and eclectic. So the first thing that I picked up is a fairly new release. This is called There Has to Be a Knife by Adnan Khan. This, I believe, is set in Scarborough, which is the whole reason I picked it up. Canlit that is set in Scarborough always gets bonus points from me. So I believe that this is about a guy whose girlfriend commits suicide. He turns to crime, and then the police blackmail him into infiltrating what may or may not be a terrorist cell. And so I imagine there will be some social commentary in here. And for a book that was this new, this hold came in really quickly, so I don't know why other people aren't picking this up, but we shall see. Another piece of Canlit that I picked up is I Hope We Choose Love, a trans girl's notes from the end of the world by Kai Cheng Thom, whose poetry collection, A Place Called No Homeland, I read a couple of years ago and really loved. I've read the advice column that she writes online, and I haven't been the biggest fan of that, but I did like the poetry so much that I did decide I was going to pick this up. I picked up her fictionalized memoir a couple of months ago, and the copy that I got from the library came in kind of sticky, so I returned that without reading it because I don't mind if library books are a little beat up. I don't mind if they look slightly dirty, but sticky is the bridge too far for me. I'm not going for sticky. Another new book that I picked up, or newish book, is Pajtim Statovci's Crossing. This was translated by David Hackston. I read the same author's My Cat Yugoslavia almost exactly a year ago, and I loved that. I haven't heard nearly as much buzz about this one. I think this is a two-generational story with characters in Albania and then Italy, is my understanding. I have tried not to read too much about it just because based on the previous book that I read by this author, I just wanted to go in not knowing too much because, yeah, I am intrigued. Next up, I picked up the first 3 volumes of Metropolis, which is a Serge Lehman comic. So this is a comic series that's set in an alternate version of 1935, in which France and Germany are a single country. And the art in this is by... I just realized I'm missing one volume. I have 1, 2, and 4. So hopefully my hold of the third one will come in. The art is by Stéphane de Caneva, and that is the style of the art. I don't believe that this has been translated into English yet, but I assume it's going to be just because Masked, which is also by Serge Lehman, has recently been translated and is out with Titan Books. Yeah, I'm looking forward to these because I like that kind of alternative history. Next up is a book that I saw Mel from Mel's Bookland Adventure talk about. This is The Big Messy Necessity, The Unmentionable World of Human Waste and Why It Matters, which is a book about toilets and sewer systems, I believe. What happens with bodily waste and disease? Are the pages textured or is this damaged? Alright, disgustingly given the topic, it looks like this book has gotten wet, which I hope means that no one has read it in the toilet. I kind of want to put this down now. Next up, I have Scholastique Mukasonga's The Barefoot Woman. This is a memoir dedicated to her mother, about her mother's life growing up in Rwanda. This was translated by Jordan Stump, who I believe has translated most of Scholastique Mukasonga's books into English. It's described as a loving, funny, devastating tribute to her mother, a keeper of Rwandan tradition even in the cruelest and bleakest of exiles. This is quite short. Everything I've seen from Scholastique Mukasonga has been quite short, so I almost said entertaining, but I feel like it's going to be too depressing to be entertaining. But next up, I have another one of Svetlana Alekseievich's oral histories. This is La Fin de l'Homme Rouge, which I think the English version of this is called Secondhand Time, which I believe is about the fall of the Soviet Union and people during that. This book is also dirty. I'm somewhat unhappy with the number of books I've gotten in this time that are kind of dirty. Why is it stained? Anyway, I've been reading through several of her oral histories of the Soviet and post-Soviet world, so yeah, I'm curious to get to that. I didn't look up when the time frame of when that was written, because when I read Zinky Boys, I felt like that was a little less compelling than some of her other work that was looking at an even more, not really distant, but something that was more distant than the Afghanistan War was when she had written that one. But anyway, we'll see how that goes. Next up, I picked up a YA novel that I normally wouldn't have picked up, except that it is one of those books where it's being sold on demographic grounds, but I was so surprised by the demographic that I had to pick it up. This is Nadine Jolie Courtney's All-American Muslim Girl, and apparently the family in this is Circassian, and I never see any books with a North American setting with Circassian characters. I think the family in here is Syrian, whereas in my actual life, all of the Circassians I know are either Turkish or Russian. So, I mean, culturally, I think this will be different. But I am curious. I think also the family is secular but not atheist, which is how I describe myself. And I'm curious to see that because I feel like religion in young adult fiction tends to be very all or nothing. So I'm curious to see how that's approached, although my standards for that kind of thing are kind of low. But hey. And finally, I picked up a fantasy novel. This is The Blue Eye by Ausma Zehanat Khan, whose mysteries I often talk about. This is the Khorasan Archives, I think it's called. This has a fairly generic fantasy structure in which, if this were about a pair of male characters and we're set in a pseudo-England or a pseudo-Japan, I would think it was kind of boring. But it's set in a pseudo-Central Asia and the characters are both female, so that's different enough that I've been kind of entertained by this series, although I do think the religious elements are a little ridiculous. But anyway, I need to get caught up with the series because I don't think I actually finished the... Yeah, I have the second one back here, and I'm not sure that I actually finished it. I feel like I got 3/4 of the way through and went to read library books because I owned that. But anyway, the third one has come out, so I hope to get caught up on that now. Alright, so those are the books that I grabbed out of the library today. This was definitely a day where all of my holds came in at once. Will I get through any of these by the end of the year? I don't know. Will I get through any of these before they're due back? I also don't know. We shall see. Anyway, if you've read any of these, I'd love to hear what you thought. And yeah, that's it for now. Ciao.